Good morning students. I am Sudarshana Raj, English teacher of St. John's Public School. Today I am going to take the lesson Black Aeroplane by Frederic Forsyth. About the author Frederic Forsyth. Frederic McCarthy Forsyth, born 25 August 1938, is an English author, journalist, former spy and occasional political commentator. He is best known for thrillers such as The Day of the Jackal, The Odessa File, The Fourth Protocol, The Dogs of War, The Devil's Alternative, The Fist of God, Icon, The Veteran, Avenger, The Afghan, The Cobra, and The Kill List. Introduction. The lesson Black Aeroplane by Frederic Forsyth reflects on how one's judgment gets distorted due to fantasizing and how it creates problems. In this chapter, the narrator is a pilot who is so eager to meet his family and have a good breakfast that he takes the wrong decision of facing the storm instead of doing the right thing. Miraculously, he somehow manages to escape with the help of a mysterious aeroplane. Summary. The story Black Aeroplane is about a pilot who feels happy and contented to fly over a city that is sleeping. That means at the night time. He is flying from Paris to London. While taking his flight, he dreams about the long holiday with his family. He also fantasizes about the sumptuous breakfast he would have upon landing. As soon as he crosses Paris, he gets a look of the dark clouds that were a sign of the upcoming storm. The right decision would have been to turn back to Paris for the sake of safety. But he, being overshadowed by his dreams and not wanting to delay them, risks the life of his passengers and heads straight into the storm. Everything gets dark. He is unable to see. All his direction instruments stopped functioning and he lost control of the plane. When all hope was lost, he saw another plane whose pilot was more than willing to rescue them. The author was panicking as there was very less amount of fuel left. The anonymous pilot guided them out of the storm and disappeared as soon as they saw light. Upon landing, when he asks the lady in the control room about the other pilot, he is left in shock when she says that his was the only plane in the sky. Next, the lesson explanation. Hello students, I am Sudarshana Raj, the English teacher of St. John's Public School. Today we are going to study a new chapter, that is The Black Aeroplane by Liam O'Flaherty. This is actually the second part of your third chapter in your detailed textbook, First Flight. This story is entirely an imaginary story and this is very interesting, at the same time greatly mysterious. So the writer is flying his old Dakota aeroplane. His mind was filled eagerly to see his family and to have breakfast with them. So he was very happy. But at the same time, the situation in the air can be unpredictable. Suddenly, he was caught in a black cloud. So he was not able to go forward. He was greatly confused and at that time, he saw a black aeroplane near him. The pilot of the black aeroplane was very confident and he supported him to go forward. He guided the writer and he was very happy when he got the support of the black aeroplane's pilot. Then suddenly he reached very safely. That means he landed his old Dakota airplane in the runway. He was greatly surprised about the experience which he had and he asked the girl who was sitting in the control room about the presence of the black aeroplane. The girl was unaware about such an aeroplane on that day and she told such another aeroplane like the black aeroplane was not there on the sky on that day. So the writer was greatly confused. He thought it as real. But we don't know whether it was an imaginary experience or a real one. So that has to be the suspense in this lesson. Greatly, we will be very curious to know whether the black aeroplane was there or not. That is up to us to believe. So in this story, we get a real life experience. Actually, even if it's not a real life experience, when we read the textbook, we will get a first-hand experience. Those who have not travelled by air will definitely feel like travelling by air when we read this chapter. Okay, so this is the summary of the chapter, The Black Aeroplane. All the other details I have put forwarded in the next sections.
The moon was coming up in the east behind me and stars were shining in the clear sky above me. There was not a cloud in the sky. I was happy to be alone high up above the sleeping countryside. I was flying my old Dakota airplane over France back to England. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. I looked at my watch, 1:30 in the morning. Explanation. It was night time when the sky was clear and the stars could be seen twinkling. The pilot felt peace in being above a country that had fallen asleep while he was flying over France to England. It was 1:30 in the morning and he was fantasizing about holidaying with his family. I should call Paris Control soon, I thought. As I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane, I saw the lights of a big city in front of me. I switched on the radio and said, Paris Control, Dakota DS-088 here. Can you hear me? I am on my way to England. Over. The voice from the radio answered me immediately. DS-088, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DS-088, over. When the aeroplane was in France, the pilot thought of informing the Paris control personnel about its presence and for instructions. At that time, lights from the Paris city were blaring at him. He informed the control agency, to which they replied with further instruction or directions. The control room at Paris instructed him to turn 12 degrees towards the west. I checked the map and the compass, switched over to my second and last fuel tank, and turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. I'll be in time for breakfast, I thought. A good big English breakfast. Everything was going well. It was an easy flight. Explanation. After receiving the instructions, the pilot geared up and followed them while putting the last fuel tank into operation. All this time, he was dreaming about his time with his family, and then he started thinking about having a satisfactory breakfast at the destination point. He was calm as everything was going as planned. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind me when I saw the clouds. Storm clouds. They were huge. They looked like black mountains standing in front of me across the sky. I knew I could not fly up and over them, and I did not have enough fuel to fly around them to the north or south. I ought to go back to Paris, I thought, but I wanted to get home. I wanted that breakfast. I'll take the risk, I thought, and flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. Explanation. Now, the plane had crossed Paris when he started seeing clouds in the sky. The presence of clouds made it unsafe to travel by air because there were chances of a storm. They were so huge and dark that the pilot compared them with black mountains. He knew he couldn't pass them, as it was impossible to go above them or escape them with the amount of fuel that was left in the last tank. The right decision would have been to fly back to Paris safely. But the pilot's decision-making was clouded by his wish to meet his family. He so desperately wanted to be with his family and have that English breakfast he had been dreaming of all day, that he took the risk of not going back. Thus he headed the plane right into the storm. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air. I looked at the compass. I couldn't believe my eyes. The compass was turning round and round and round. It was dead. It would not work. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. I tried the radio. Explanation. It was so dark because of the storm that nothing was visible outside the plane. He started losing control of the aeroplane. The compass and other instruments had also stopped working because of the bad weather. He became helpless. Paris control, can you hear me? There was no answer. The radio was dead too. I had no radio, no compass, and I could not see where I was. I was lost in the storm. Then, in the black clouds quite near me, I saw another aeroplane. It had no lights on its wings, but I could see it flying next to me through the storm. I could see the pilot's face turned towards me. I was very glad to see another person. He lifted one hand and waved. Follow me, he was saying. Follow me. He knows that I am lost. I thought he is trying to help me. He tried calling the Paris control agency who had helped him earlier, but couldn't connect because of the weather. In the midst of nowhere, when everything was failed, he saw a ray of hope when he saw another aeroplane. He felt relieved when he saw another pilot's face and willingness to help him escape the storm. He thought to himself that the other pilot is very kind, as he knew that they were lost and was trying to help him. He turned his aeroplane slowly to the north in front of my Dakota so that it would be easier for me to follow him. I was very happy to go behind the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. Now, there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. I was starting to feel frightened again, but then he started to go down and I followed through the storm. Suddenly, I came out of the clouds and saw 2 long straight lines of lights in front of me. It was a runway, an airport. I was safe. I turned to look for my friend in the black aeroplane, but the sky was empty. There was nothing there. The black aeroplane was gone. I could not see it anywhere. The other pilot took his plane ahead of the lost aeroplane to make it easier for them to follow, while the other followed him like an obedient child. He was also panicking because there was very less amount of fuel left. It was only then that he started coming out of the storm and could see the runway to land his plane safely. When he turned to thank the other pilot, he realized that the plane that helped him had disappeared as soon as he came out of the storm. I landed and was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower. I went and asked a woman in the control center where I was and the other pilot was. I wanted to say thank you. She looked at me very strangely and then laughed. Another aeroplane? Up there in the storm. No other aeroplanes were flying tonight. Yours was the only one I could see on the radar. So who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in my tanks? Who was the pilot on the strange black aeroplane flying in the storm without lights? Explanation. The author did not know where he had landed but was not afraid of leaving his plane unattended. He headed straight into the control room to ask about the other pilot. To his utmost surprise, the lady informed him that there was no other plane in the sky except his because of the bad weather. He is left astonished with a lot of questions unanswered in his mind. Now, questions and answers. You have to write all these question answers in your notebook. I'll read it for you. I'll take the risk. What is the risk? Why does the narrator take it? The risk here refers to not doing the right thing, which is flying back to Paris when he came to know about the storm. Despite being aware of the bad weather, the pilot headed straight into the storm and risked the lives of his fellow passengers. The pilot's decision-making was clouded by his wish to meet his family. He so desperately wanted to be with his family and have that English breakfast he had been dreaming of all day that he took the risk of not going back. Next question. Describe the narrator's experience as he flew the aeroplane into the storm. The answer is given. These are some more questions. You have to go through all these questions. Grammar exercise from the textbook. Now try to guess the meanings of the word black in the sentences given below. Check the meanings in the dictionary and find out whether you have guessed right. So first is, go and have a bath. Your hands and face are absolutely black. Here, black means your hands and face are untidy. Second question, the taxi driver gave Ratan a black look as he crossed the road when the traffic light was green. Here in this sentence, black means an angry mood. So when the man was crossing, it was green signal. So the taxi driver was very angry. Few more questions are given here. In each situation, the meaning is different. You have to go through all this and try to understand the meaning of black in different sentences. The answers of the questions are given here. Match the following. Questions are given here. You can go through that. Answers are given here. Please match it. Thank you, my dears.